Welcome to the sanctuary. I'm Kyle, and I forgot my button. I've got to stay in solidarity now, right? Welcome to the pleasure den of the absurd. I'm Kyle, and tonight I just wanted to highlight this Ken Burns documentary about country music. This is a really interesting thing for me, and I think it would be an interesting thing for you too to check this out, because it's a lot more about the music, you know. Now, my dad was named by his older sisters after this guy, Leon McAuliffe. And, you may be asking, well, who the hell is Leon McAuliffe? Well, he was the steel guitar player for a very famous band during their lifetime that had a significant role in country music itself. And that band was Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. I've probably heard this song, Faded Love, a million times in my lifetime in one way or another. I got this Blu-ray set from the Public Broadcasting System website, the PBS website. This is where it was aired. It's 8 episodes, and tells, just like it says, a story of America, one song at a time, and that is true. Again, this music and its presentation within this documentary starts in the old countries and goes through the 20s with the beginnings of recorded sound on disc that people could purchase or hear on their radios, which people, these radio signals across America, you could hear something, in Texas that was being broadcasted from states away just on your little radio there. Pretty amazing thing, for those times, right? It's easy now with the internet. But for a long stretch of time, where that was possible, it got condensed. And, but such as it was, it made a huge impact, this music, on people all over this country. This documentary was really well done. They got Peter Coyote to narrate it. So he's got that particular thing in his voice. And the way he narrates these tales of these people who performed the music, who wrote the songs, who played the instruments, who produced the recordings, who listened to it on their radios. This is a significant piece of American history here. And whether or not you like country music, this is very well done, and it spans, like I say, from the old countries. And you're like, what do you mean the old countries? Well, I'm talking Ireland, Scotland, Croatia, as far as East Europe all the way to the other end of England and Scotland and Ireland and I mean, you know, this music is in me whether I like it or not, and I really do like it. So much so that I had decided to listen to some music from from Croatia. Not that I'm Croatian, but my relative had albums of their traditional music. So I pulled up on YouTube, music of Croatia. And I saw a live performance of these dancers and these guys playing violin. And I heard what that would become here. I heard it in their music, man. I heard it. It's there. And you know, just like that, you know, bow on a fiddle string, man. This really does resonate. So you might be asking, well, tell us more about this thing. What's on here? All right. So episode 1 is called The Rub, and it just says beginnings, and it goes all the way up to 1933. Episode 2 is called Hard Times, and that goes from 1933 to 1945. Now, this is the period where, you know, my father was born. And just as a side note, he was living as a Cherokee Indian in Oklahoma at the time, so that's that. Episode 3, The Hillbilly Shakespeare. 1945 through 1953. You might think this episode would solely focus on Hank Williams, who they called the Hillbilly Shakespeare, and who is cited in that particular episode by Charlie Parker as being a fan. And there's a story related in the documentary where Bird is playing these songs on a jukebox, and one of his fellow jazz men is like, man, why do you listen to this stuff? And he's like, man, it's the stories. It's the stories. And he grew up in Kansas City, so he knows it too, man. This is America. This is American history, man. You think I'm gonna lie to you? All right, so listen. So episode 4 on this particular disc here, compilation, I Can't Stop Loving You, which goes from 53 to 63. Now, as you can imagine, during that time period, you're talking, you know, pre-rock and roll, and it gets into rockabilly, and then it's going to get into that polished Nashville sound, which, you know, was deviant at the time. It deviated from those, you know, rural norms and made it more polished and sophisticated. Listen to some of Patsy Cline's records, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And that was the beginning of what they called the Nashville sound. Not only music, but American history right here. Right here. Going to this second thing here. Episode 5. The Sons and Daughters of America. From 1964 to 1968. Pretty turbulent period in American history, right? It takes you through all that and all the people that you may or may not know. I mean, you know, a lot of people know the name Hank Williams. A lot of people know the name Johnny Cash. You know, a lot of people know the name Merle Haggard. You know, but how many people know Charlie Pride or Bob Wills or, the Carter family or Jimmy Rogers? It's something to see, man. And episode 6, continuing. Will the Circle Be Unbroken? 1968 to 1972. And this is where other people are taking an interest in country music and traditional music. Chris Christopherson highlights his songwriting, which I'm sure many of you have heard. One of Janis Joplin's most famous songs was written by him. Bob Dylan, the Byrds, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And, they talk about what was going on and tell you about all these artists. You'll hear about Graham Parsons, and his influence on people. Episode 7, Are You Sure Hank Done It This Way? Now here we are in 1973 to 83. Now you look at this, starting at 1973. 40 years after the first episode ends. 40 years. And 73 is what? 50 years from now? Or 50 years in the past from now? Right? So that's what I'm talking about, man. American history, tradition. You're not just spit out into this world and there it is. There's a whole wind blowing you and your parents and all them other people that along in that ride, man. So, there's a word for that, tradition. And in that episode, you see where tradition's being broken, but in the spirit of it all. And that goes from 73 to 83, and now we know. We're getting into the later years, so it ends with episode 8. Don't Get Above Your Raisin. And that goes from 84 to 96. And that's where it ends with what they call the New Traditionalists. Ricky Skaggs, Reba McEntire, George Strait, Randy Travis, the Judds, Dwight Yoakam, and, of course, Garth Brooks. Now, I just gotta say, if you got a thing for Ken Burns, you got a thing for country music, you got a thing for American history, you got a thing for your own family history, check this out, man. I mean, one of the episodes, I can't remember exactly which one it was. It was probably either episode 6, could have been the beginning of episode 7, but it was broadcast during lockdown, and I'm watching it on PBS, and Ray Benson of Asleep at the Wheel is relating when Willie Nelson had, moved his base of operations from Nashville into Austin, Texas, where he belonged. And he put on these July 4 barbecues. Now, this is, in the throes of hippiedom and the Vietnam War and, differences of opinion seem familiar. And anyway, Ray Benson's telling this story of, Willie Nelson putting on these giant barbecues, outdoor concerts. And, this is when there was a huge wave of fusion country music and rock and roll and that whole thing. I mean, jazz fusion wasn't the only thing going on at that time either. Because let's face it, with this socio-economic way of living, people started getting accustomed to blending things together. So anyway, the point is, I'm watching this episode during lockdown. There's this whole thing going on. And Ray Benson's telling this story about these July 4 barbecue concerts that Willie Nelson's putting together in Austin. And what do you got during that time? You got a bunch of bikers and a bunch of hippies and everyone else all converged. And what happens? What do you think happens? Well, I'll tell you. They all had a great time. You know why? Because of country music. It's American history. I cried when I saw that. At that particular time, when, state media is telling you to hate your neighbor and all that bullshit. And I see, well, man, they were able to get together in the past. We can still get together now. Maybe with or without the aid of country music, but that possibility is still there, and it's always there. Don't ever forget it. If you want to check something out, check this out. Really well done. I really did enjoy the way that they weaved all these stories together with historical artifacts and recordings and photos, and hearing it from the people that were there and experienced it and lived through it all. I mean, I've never seen any Ken Burns stuff before. But this thing, because of the people in my own family, both sides, the way this music affected them, impacted them, I knew what they were getting across with this. And I hope that you do too. And with that, I want to thank you for watching. I know this was a lot longer than maybe we both had hoped, but it's really for your entertainment and edification. And I just want to say, I want to thank you for watching. And this is the kind of stuff that you're going to get here in the sanctuary. There's all kinds of stuff. And, so if you like this video, please click the like button. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, because you truly don't know what's coming up next. And it's all going to be broadcast here. Where? In the pleasure den of the absurd.